Labadiena visiems.
Good day to everyone. We begin the press conference after the Baltic Council of Ministers meeting of Prime Ministers. We have the Prime Minister of Lithuania, Ingrida Šimonytė, Estonian Minister Kaja Kallas, and Latvian Prime Minister Evi Kasilina. We'll start with the presentation of Prime Ministers, with Lithuanian Prime Minister. Hello. First of all, I'd like to thank my colleagues Kaja and Evika for visiting Vilnius. The very close and intensive cooperation and coordination between our governments reflects the strength of our strategic partnership. This is a particularly important fact in the present time, in the context of Russia's continued aggression and in the run-up to the high-level summits to coordinate our positions, since we understand the challenges to our security in the same way. We are of a similar mind in this area, and so we can have a stronger common position. During the meeting, we talked about the security of the region, the support to Ukraine, sanctions against Russia and Belarus, EU enlargement, and other important topics on the EU agenda. We also discussed the implementation of regional infrastructure projects, just like we do every time. We assess the progress and point continued political attention to those issues. The situation, according to our countries, is similar. Our security, the security of our region, depends on Ukraine's victory, and we cannot tire, and I trust we won't tire in helping Ukraine to fight and win against Russia's imperialistic evil that threatens all the free nations of the world. The Baltic states continue on stressing that it is essential to increase pressure on Russia. Despite Kremlin's propaganda, Russia's economy shows that they are working and are having perhaps not a lightning fast, but a direct and lasting effect on the aggressor's ability to continue its vicious campaign of violence and destruction. We've agreed to continue on increasing this pressure, to continue harsher Russian isolation and international sanctions, to focus efforts in the EU and around the globe to make sure that those sanctions are not circumvented. We've also agreed to show unity in the NATO summit in Washington. The new plans of defense have to become a reality, and they have to be implemented according to all criteria. 2% of GDP is not a ceiling, but a minimum that all allies must spend on defense. We must agree on the promotion of the defense industry and on stronger partnership with the Indo-Pacific region. As for the EU agenda, today one of the most important strategic questions is the further EU enlargement. All three Baltic states recently commemorated Baltic states EU membership, 20th anniversary of the Baltic states EU membership. This is a success story for all of us, and one that offers many opportunities for Lithuanian, Latvian, and Estonian people and businesses. But we have to be not only proud of our success, but also to defend the fundamental values that underpinned it, and to do everything we can to expand that space of success. And so we must start real negotiations on EU membership with Ukraine and Moldova as soon as possible, before the middle of the year. We must keep our promise to the people of Ukraine and Moldova and to use this historic moment to expand the European area of success, not least for our own security. In discussing joint infrastructure projects, we reiterated our appreciation of the Baltic countries' resolute path towards energy independence. It is important to maintain our unity and solidarity in this area and to successfully complete the planned works. We need to start synchronous operation with the continental European grids in 2025. And the Baltic states have full support of Poland and the European Commission in this respect. It is important to continue to work together to implement the Rail Baltica project. In Lithuania, work is moving at a full pace. We must continue to keep up the momentum in order to obtain further funding for the construction of the line and the implementation of the project until 2030. It is a key project not only for the economy, but for the regional defense and military mobility as well. The maturity of the project and the alignment of priorities will help to ensure the financing for the construction of the railway. Lithuania expects to complete the construction of the main line to Poland by the year 2028 and to accelerate work on the section from Kaunas to Latvia, where we are already laying the track base. Our regional infrastructure projects make a major contribution to the EU's green agenda, while ensuring our independence and security. We will achieve more in this area by working together at a regional level through joint projects. So, dear Evika and Kaya, thank you once again for this meeting and for our unity. Thank you. Now the floor goes to the Prime Minister of Estonia.
Evika, dear journalist, it's good to be here. Thank you, Ingrida, for hosting us here today. It's good to see friends so often that we do now. Just saw each other and had a meeting last Monday. Our focus today was European security and also our regional cooperation. This is more important than ever because of our aggressive and imperialist neighbor. We must continue to work together with our allies and partners to do more, both to help Ukraine to win the war, but also to strengthen Europe's defense readiness. To deter Russia, the free world must keep the momentum. Our actions must show our commitment to Ukraine's victory. I'm glad that since we last met, the European Union has decided to hand over profits from Russian immobilized assets to Ukraine. This will mean real funds for Ukraine to buy weapons, but we can't stop there. We must find a way to use Russian frozen assets as well, because also the taxpayers of some bigger countries than ours will ask, why are we paying for the damages that we are not causing in Ukraine? These damages are caused by Russia, they should pay for it. It is also important that the European Union adopt the 14th sanctions package as soon as possible. All three of us agree that we must also continue working together to find more ways to strengthen sanctions and stop circumvention. Russia has also intensified the shadow war against all of European countries. It wants to really scare and intimidate the free world to scare us away from helping Ukraine. We are discussing with our partners how to deter Russia's hybrid actions against all of our societies. Preparations for the upcoming NATO summit in Washington are also picking up pace. Our shared aim is to make sure the decisions that the allies make show not only NATO's unity, but also NATO's strength. Speaking of European defense, the European Union next long-term budget must also pay more attention to it. Governments expect defense manufacturers to be more productive, while manufacturers on the other side need long-term vision and contracts from governments. That is why we also need to quickly find ways to raise capital to boost European defense industry, be it defense bonds or any other alternative. Developing cross-border connections in our region is also about European security. Our goal is to complete the Rail Baltic by 2030. To reach this goal, we must all stay on track. In Estonia, preparations are ongoing to start the construction of the first 74 kilometers of Rail Baltic already this year. This is around 1/3 of the whole Estonian section. Work will also progress on the main passenger terminal and other objects like bridges and viaducts. I also greatly appreciate our cooperation in the energy sector, including the synchronization. We are on schedule with the preparations for accelerated synchronization and expect to connect our electricity systems with the Central European grid by February 2025. In view of the next EU's long-term budget, we have agreed to work together to increase financing even more for cross-border infrastructure projects, both in energy but also in transport. So thank you again, Ingrida, for hosting us, and thank you.
Ačiū. Žodis Latvijos premjerui.
Thank you. Now the floor goes to Latvian Prime Minister.
Our gratitude to our Lithuanian colleagues and Ingrida personally for being excellent hosts. Today's meeting was another proof of close and productive cooperation amongst Baltic states. As you may see, we are Baltic sisters. We stick together for the well-being and security of our people. Lithuania and Estonia hold a special place in the hearts of Latvians. I was thrilled to see Latvia qualify for the Eurovision finals, knowing that Lithuania and Estonia also made it, and actually my family votes went for both of my sister countries because we loved dance music of Estonians and as well as this disco from Lithuanians. But a little bit more seriously, we always support each other, which demonstrates the mutual solidarity and friendship among our countries, rooted in shared history, values, and challenges. We are a loud voice of supporting Ukraine in its fight against Russia's devastating aggression. Today, we discussed many important issues. Security was a focus area also today. We coordinated our priorities and actions on the way to the NATO summit in Washington in July. Stronger deterrence and defense remains a top priority. For this, we need NATO's unity, more allied military presence in the eastern flank, more military industry, high readiness, and better military capabilities. The borders of the Baltic states are NATO borders. Strengthening Latvia's, Lithuania's, and Estonia's deterrence and defense capabilities is essential for the entire alliance. Latvia will continue to invest in our military and border security within the framework of the Baltic Defense Line project. We also paid a lot of attention to addressing Russia's hybrid warfare activities. Here our message is clear. Our society's resilience is growing, and we remain vigilant. We clearly see that are the aims of Russia. Russia will not succeed. We will continue to strengthen our internal and external security, as well as informational security. We also remain resolute in our support for Ukraine. All the Baltic states support Ukraine a lot. We will continue doing so until Ukraine's victory and Russia's defeat. Russia must lose the war for the sake of Ukraine, European security, and global order. We continue to work towards better integration of our energy and transport infrastructure to European networks. This means increasing connectivity and electricity production from renewable resources. On Rail Baltica, Latvia has signed construction agreement for whole main line. We are determined to make progress on Rail Baltica because it is important for military mobility and overall connectivity. We have to maintain unity and address collectively European Commission to ensure financial support for the project. We have joint priorities at the EU. We coordinate our efforts on enlargement, defense industry, and increasing competitiveness. The Baltic states have gained a lot from 20 years of membership up EU and NATO. The Baltic states have shown that reforms and achievements are possible when we are determined and work in accordance with our values and solidarity among the EU and NATO member states. And we have reached a lot for support to Ukraine when we coordinate our political issues and when we see each other so often as we did this time. Thank you.
Ačiū labai.
Thank you very much. Now it's time for the media questions. Please tell who you are and who you are aiming your questions to.
Strazdanya, Latvian television. If you don't mind, I will keep sitting because cameras will not be happy if I stand up. I would like to ask the question to all prime ministers. Russia is disrupting GPS systems over the Baltic area, and some air transport companies already are saying the situation is getting more and more worse. Do you see how to tackle this problem, and should NATO involve in a way to solve this situation? And if I may, another question regarding Russia's cyber attacks, and also there was recently published intelligence service warnings to the governments that Russia might do some terror acts in the countries, also in the Baltics. So how do you see how Baltic states could work together? Maybe you could be a little bit more specific to tackle this problem and work against cyber attacks and also possible terror acts. Thank you so much.
I start? You know that Russia is very inventive in trying to push or pressure democratic world in all sorts of ways. So I will take both of your questions as a basically one question, because it's just a question of what methods and what measures are used. And there was an attempt to attack, or an attack actually, against Leonid Volkov. There were facts of sabotage against historical monuments. And this is basically what the intelligence institutions are speaking about. But I would not attribute this to Baltic states specifically, because what we need to understand here is that this is an activity that is against all the community that is united in supporting Ukraine. And this is not specific to Estonia, Latvia, or Lithuania. Of course, we will most probably see things like that happening, as we saw, and we are working very hard to sort of act preemptively. And in the cases when something happened, our law enforcement institutions were very fast in sort of getting hands-on and even singling out the people who were guilty, who will go to criminal case trial. Very good cooperation between our institutions, Poland, neighboring countries in the neighborhood in tackling this. We need to be aware that the goal is to reduce level of support to Ukraine, not only here but also everywhere in the region where we are trying to do what we can to support Ukraine, and we need to read that properly. And of course, our institutions, intelligence institutions, governmental institutions like law enforcement institutions, border, all the others need to cooperate very smoothly and very effectively. And this is exactly what they are doing. I can promise that, and this is a fact, to reduce the risks to the extent possible. But also, what is important, that we need to know that Russia was always like that, and this is just a question of methods they will use. They were using cyber. They might use kinetic activities like this attack against monuments or against some people from, for example, Russian political opposition. So we need to be extra vigilant, but this holds true for all the countries that are so to say considered by Kremlin being too active in supporting Ukraine.
Yes, to add to that, Russia is conducting this shadow war against all of the European countries. What we have to see that these are not isolated events, but rather all connected to each other. These are meant to scare our people, to scare our societies, to make us refrain from the decisions that we would otherwise make. And the only response to it is that we shouldn't be scared, because this is meant to scare our people. And of course, our intelligence services and services are cooperating very well, and all these criminals will be also held accountable for this, and we have to cooperate more. What Russia is really good at doing is pouring fuel into the fires that already exist within our societies, so that you can really flame these into big fires. And we have to be very aware of this, and we have to discuss also with our colleagues from the Western countries or other allies, what more can we do together in order to deter? Because, like Ingrida said, it's against European countries, not only the Baltics. Thank you.
Yeah, what can I add? We have to remember that we are living in a wartime in Europe. This is war which disturbs societies in Europe, and this war is going here, just in our neighborhood. And actually, day by day, we forget about it in our everyday life, but we have to remember that those hybrid attacks Russia has been trying to implement more and more to weaken our democracies, to weaken political will for support to Ukraine. And that is something which we already discussed together, that we will be a loud voice explaining what's going on to other European countries as well, because Baltic states and all this region who lives in a neighborhood with Russia and Belarus understands hybrid attacks much better than maybe other countries understand and can explain what's going on. That's why we will keep coordinated. We will use our coordination in our security and within our institutions, our police, how they work together, and they work very well. And they will explain to other countries as well what's going on here, and we will look for coordinated answer to those threats, because otherwise, yes, then they can apply it like independently, but we can see it's a hybrid attacks. Why? Because they see we are supporting Ukraine, we are being very strong on our politics against Russia's attacks, against Russia's politics, and that's why we cannot be afraid of those attacks, but we have to find a united answer to them.
Labatina. My name is Javier Colas from Spanish newspaper El Mundo. My question is if you have discussed the idea you already mentioned about sending, for example, in this case, Lithuanian soldiers, even if it is in the case of instructors, to Ukraine. So main question for Prime Minister Simoniti, but also to the others if you have already talked about it in this meeting or with your government. Thank you.
We're not discussing this today, but I can only reiterate what I've mentioned a couple of times before. According to the legislation of this country, it is the parliament who is extending the mandate for military people to perform in different operations and different purposes, and the parliament has adopted a mandate, but this is only a mandate. for training officers, and the options that are available in line with the mandate are in Lithuania, in other countries, and also in Ukraine, of course, provided additional security arrangements would be met. But currently, this is not something that is happening practically, because this is a mandate where you have options that you can consider under particular requests and under particular circumstances, but this is not something we are debating here. This is a theoretical possibility for our institutions to take decision if there would be appropriate conditions for that, I would say.
We didn't discuss it today, so it's a theoretical issue, and I believe if something like that would happen, it should be firstly analyzed within NATO, and then there could be next decisions by governments, parliaments, whoever makes a decision in political level.
Well, I agree with my colleagues, and would add just that we have been guessing for months what Russia will do next. Let them guess what we are doing next, and we don't have to be so public about what we are not doing, just to make them guess as well.
Yes, my name is Yuri Skaja from the Spanish global news agency EFI. I have one question for Prime Minister Simonita. You are in the second round of the presidential elections, and you probably hope that you will be successful. If you are successful, what happens then? You must leave the post of Prime Minister. You will not be going to, probably not go, I don't know how that exactly works. You may not be going to Washington. Someone else will take over for you. And whoever takes over will face an election in October. Is this not a bit of a difficult situation for Lithuania, even though it may be a good situation for Lithuania to get an interesting and competent person as president?
Thank you. I don't think this is a right place to discuss our internal politics. And it happens that we are in the second round of elections, but let's leave this to people of Lithuania to decide, okay?
Latvia and Estonia, there's an issue, a domestic issue in Latvia about the transport of manganese ore. Manganese ore can be used to make steel. Steel can be used to make either pots and pans or tanks. There is a proposal before the European Union now to ban the transit of manganese ore. And Estonia was one of the places where it was going on, and Latvia was one of the places where the ore was being handled and moved on to Estonia, where apparently one of your former prime ministers was benefiting from the whole business. So what is going to happen with manganese ore now? Do you think the EU will quickly move to implement a ban so that we are not faced with these domestic issues that have been discussed in Latvia, that if we quit right now, tomorrow, then people will lose their jobs and the ore will be moved around differently?
It's already on proposal from Commission on 14th sanctions package. We have many times explained it that we have already put it from March there. So now it's already so prepared that countries have more or less decided, and all the Baltic countries have signed a joint letter for Commission to put this manganese ore on the next sanctions, so it's 14th. And we hope that while there will be debates, it will be just in next months will be adopted as well during the next debates of sanctions. So yes, today we discuss this sanctions list, and not just about manganese ore, about some other sanctions which should be put on Belarus as well. But to be very cautious, we support Lithuania not to get some products out from the list which has been already sanctioned. So we have to be very cautious as well for sanctions. And yes, we are going forward with frozen assets from Russia, with the profits of frozen assets. And we as well always has been pro decision to make deal out of use frozen assets towards Ukraine as well. So we are pro sanctions, and we see it could be a best decision if all of Europe could agree, because it's very important that we don't make a lot of like decisions by only one country, because we are single market, and all the legal issues which raises up when any country do something differently, then we cannot be so united with the sanctions as we are, as we decide as European Union.
Like it was said, we are supporting all the sanctions, and actually we have proposed also to ban the complete trade with Russia and complete transit, because the problem is for our three countries that it's not our entrepreneurs who are dealing with Russia. These are coming from Europe. We are bearing the costs for going through all the documents, whether there are double documentation, for example. They are saying that it goes to Kyrgyzstan, but we have doubts that it goes to Kyrgyzstan. So there are double documentation. But who is doing that? The European companies are doing that, not the Estonian, Latvian, or Lithuanian. But we have the border, and if the border is not closed, then there are countries that are benefiting from the trade with Russia. And I think it is important for all of us to understand we want this war to end, and in order to do that, we have to focus our efforts. That means everybody pays the price. But if we do it all, not that some still think that we can benefit from the trade with Russia or transit via Russia, then we are able to really push Russia more, so that this war will end sooner. If they run out of materials, if they run out of funds, but that means that we have to implement the sanctions, and there is no circumvention.
A question to Prime Minister of Estonia. When the law about the frozen asset of Russia will be adopted, and do you expect Lithuania and Latvia to adopt such a law also?
Yes, it has passed second reading now in the Parliament, so we expect it to be adopted before the Parliament goes into recession. We have shared our draft law also with our Baltic colleagues and other colleagues outside. Is it bulletproof? Of course, nothing is bulletproof if you are a lawyer. I'm a lawyer, I can contest anything. But we have tried to make it as bulletproof as possible in order to be able to use it. So, of course, we have to be creative, and it has to be in accordance with the rule of law. That's what we have done. So, of course, we expect also other countries to follow on the European level.
What is the most important policy issue for you at the Washington summit? And also, in terms of sanctions and evasions, what can be done to prevent ships from evading the oil cap? And finally, do you think the defense bonds, the European defense bonds, is still a viable idea? Thank you.
Yeah, I will start. Washington summit, I think we need very concrete steps for all the countries to reach its 2% defense spending. I think this is extremely important for all the allies who have already said in 2014 that they will spend 2% of their GDP on defense. And still, I think 18 countries have reached this so far. I think, the strength of NATO comes from the strength of different allies, and that's why everybody has to do this. That is first. The second is the defense capability capabilities, the defense plans that we have ready. We have to also make the agreements regarding the specific measures to implement those defense plans. I think this is also extremely important in order to go on. Then we will have a new Secretary General for NATO. That is definitely going to be a decision. And of course, a decision how we can more support Ukraine so that they can win this war. Regarding the oil cap, I mean, the initial agreement was that the oil cap is lowered, that it is 5% lower than the market price. That hasn't been followed. And I think, you know, first we should keep the agreements that we have made and lower the oil price cap so that it would really work. Regarding the defense bonds, then this idea is still alive. I haven't gotten, you know, complete no from all the members. I've gotten even some yeses, which is a good thing. But I also say that, you know, I'm not really stuck to these ideas if you have other ideas. But the problem is that we have to solve the gap that we have in our defense capabilities. And that is very much related to the investment, the funding. So taking down the obstacles of using private funds for defense is one thing, but also finding additional funds to make the investments to defense that are needed, not in 2 years, 5 years, but now really from all the allies. Thank you.
That Kaja already mentioned all the priorities of NATO summit, as well as we're looking forward for maybe some more practical issues which can be issued regarding Ukraine, and all the issues regarding regional plans which should be implemented. Last year they were prepared and issued, and this year they should be shown some implementation progress. So this will be the best outcome of Washington summit, as well as, yes, new Secretary General as well. But yes, I believe that some wording more towards Ukraine going forward NATO, that's one of the topic everyone is talking about. But we understand that there can be some practical things. What John Stoltenberg has said, that some practical financing aids which can come out of NATO could be one of the issues which can come as well as out of Washington summit. Regarding financing for military in Europe, we are all fully in. So it doesn't matter which are the resources, but we actually need to find those resources, because really Europe has to spend more on defense and our military capabilities. We cannot just rely on our transatlantic partners, which is good. Finally, United States made a decision regarding Ukraine, but we all understand that we need to raise up now our financial capabilities as well. And what Kaja mentioned, those 2% at least for NATO member states for spending, it's very important to be reached on and to spoken more out of Washington summit as well. So we are fully in, whatever it takes to finance more military expenditure as well in European level.
The good outcome of our joint experience and very intense cooperation is that you usually do not have to repeat the same thing thrice. So, not much to add.
Hello, Lukas Azapaitis from BNS. This question to all the three prime ministers. So you mentioned that you talked about the Rail Baltica implementation. Could you talk in more specific? What are the challenges that are still blocking the project from coming to terms on time? And are you talking on buying the rolling stock jointly? So first of all, a lot of time was lost for not too productive discussions. There was time when we could have carried out work which was essential to the project implementation, for example, design and project work, which was late, and so the project was pushed away in time, and it coincided with the increase in prices of raw materials and overall pricing than the one that was during the debate state 10 years ago. And that changed the economy, the pricing of the project, but also the benefit of the project also changed. Additional aspects that previously were not considered came to light. For example, military mobility. We didn't think of it when we thought about Rail Baltica. It was purely civil project in the past. So the budget is the main issue and challenge, of course. But to be able to discuss the further financing, first of all, we have to show maturity of the project, which we recently tried to do, to show that the project is happening on all the stages. It's not that we are only putting a railway to Latvia and fixing the documentation to then start work towards Poland, but no, the specific work of putting the rail in Latvia and Estonia was also began. The railway is the main work, not the railway stations or supporting infrastructure, but the railway itself. So we have to put priority on the railway. And I think that we now gained momentum. I think the last applications that were put forward for financing were at a mature level. They received good, they were welcomed warmly. And so we have to continue to work, to come to the negotiation with a good business case, to say that in a short time we managed to carry out a lot of work. And there are objective reasons for why the project pricing changed, but the project also took other benefits during that time, and it should remain a priority for the EU, for the connecting Europe.
I can add to what Ingrid already said and can say, yes, I agree to all of that. And I believe we all three happen to be the leaders which actually have seen the real costs of the project. Because previously the project was dealing with estimated costs, estimated designs, but we actually are the leaders who now can see the designs. And yes, military mobility came to the project, which means we have to understand that there should be a certain weight which bridges should be able to deal with. So we really have made this project going on, and we have reduced the potential costs of the project. Maybe we as leaders have to be very practical sometimes, but it's good that three women always can find some practical solutions to any challenges. And I believe we will be very determined to go on with the project. For us, yes, Riga is very essential for the project. We understand that it could not be financed maybe from European money right now, but we will have to find a way how it can be financed. And it is very important that we can show progress, yes, practical progress for European Union as well, for the Commission, because we will need to discuss next financial period of European Union as well.
Well, I have actually nothing to add, so I agree.
Thank
you to Prime Ministers and to all the guests who listen to us, and have a good day.